Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Oh, warm the crowd a little bit. So that's no. There's another more recent. This is a humble brag. In Lion's Roar on mindful breathing. That's the latest article that I got to. Well, my husband he's a great editor, and I finally asked after bickering over the years, Lion's Roar to have him listed as a co-author. And it's on mindful breathing. It's a pretty fun article, if I do say so myself. It's fun to hear the stories that we've been through, that we've survived. The story, without giving too much away, is about me learning or not learning how to swim at 12 years old. And barely surviving that lesson. So I'm really grateful to be here. I'm looking over to the Zoom folks. Thanks for helping, and the folks here in person, and for co-creating this Sangha. The image I have, there's a poet, Borges, Jose Luis Borges. Many of you have heard his name, and he says, "We build sandcastles knowing that the ocean is going to wash it away. Build anyway," I think is the whole poem. And so we're building a Sangha. It'll be washed away, but never completely gone, huh? We have the gift and responsibility to see, to feel that what we do in this half hour, this time together, this hour and a half, does have ripples, yeah? And so before I go on an anxiety train, thinking about that, at least that's where my mind went, I want to just share the topic that I have in mind for today. And it's, if we were to title this talk, it's Remembering Refuge. I always try to listen to who taught here before. So Laura Burgess was here. And so coincidentally, she also was talking about refuge. And I really enjoyed her talk. And I'm going to offer what makes sense to me in this moment around refuge. I know some of us, I think all of us, if we're practicing wholesomely, we're remembering that beginner's mind, as Suzuki Roshi said, gives us the opportunity for infinite possibility, The expert mind, there's very few possibilities. And so the beginner, quote unquote, place to start when talking about refuges is to remember the three jewels, right? Those are the three refuges of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, The three jewels that we get to polish in every moment, And so having some understanding of some of the heart of these jewels, like what the juice of it is, what the meat of it is, what it's really pointing to, and how the Buddha and the people that helped create Buddhism, what they may have meant by that. And most of it is universal wisdom, And there's some specific things that I find really interesting that help me open my heart and be faithful, particularly in the Buddhist tradition as I connect to it. And I say but there's many Buddhist traditions, yeah? And that's one thing I really enjoy about coming here is that it's non-denominational, yeah? And I really feel and understand that Buddhism as a world faith tradition has been influenced by whoever it comes in contact with, and that we're co-creating it in every moment. And so I say that to empower us to keep it alive and how it makes sense. And so that's might be classified as the second jewel, the second gem of the second refuge of Buddhism as Dharma, like being with things as they are, as dynamic as it might be, particularly. I know it's a truism, every moment is dynamic, there's always a lot going on, yet in these particular times, it feels that there's a lot of dissolution and kicking up the dirt and clear seeing of like, oh, this is how it is, and this is how it has been. And I stop with saying this is where it's going because we actually don't know on this ultimate level. The ultimate level, and this is somewhere to take refuge in the Dharma, we know that things will change, yeah, that things that we perceive as permanent aren't, that anything that's conditioned isn't solid, yeah, that things are shifting, including ourselves, yeah? And so that's the first gem of Buddhism. Our Buddha, one translation of that is the awakened one. So even when we take, and I'll contrast it with false refuge, the false refuge when it comes to the first jewel might be that we take refuge in identity, the sense that even though I'm Melvin and we were knowing each other's names, and some of us were like, I can't remember names, and there's so much going on, and so that we might take refuge in this sense of who we are when that's actually changing, yeah. Even though we would call it ego, yeah, that this sense of a solid self, and that our true essence, this first jewel, calls us into the truth of our essence and who we really are. Yeah, and Buddha, there's the statue here, he was a person that most scholars agree existed, not all scholars, as a human being. But the other ways to interpret that I hope might be helpful for us is to think of it as, actually Tara Brach, she calls it awareness, that the first refuge is awareness. So instead of Buddha nature, and sometimes I get ensnarled with my pushing against like patriarchy, and it's like, I don't want to be like, this is this man I have to aspire to. So like awareness or awakenedness or kindness, love, compassion, these kind of, to start to think of like a pureness, and not that. And here's what I love about Buddhism, that there isn't, even though we can talk about impurities or unwholesomeness or toxicity, that it isn't moralized, that that's actually part of the human condition. And so our Buddha nature, our Buddha essence, or our awareness invites even the unpleasantness that's part of the path of awakening. So that's Buddha nature, as I see it, awareness of the pleasant, unpleasant, the neutral, and how we might try to take refuge in thoughts or feelings that we can get lost in, and think, like, if you think about it, how can we really define like Buddha nature or who we are? Really, I was thinking as I was sitting here in meditation to try to think about like what the heck got me here. We were talking about, I lived in Montreal for graduate school, and we were talking about your parents living in Montreal, and then to start to make visible the invisible connections that we all have, huh? And that might be a Buddha nature way of looking at things, this interconnection that we actually have a lot more in common than not, you know, and including the traumas, yeah, and this is where identity can snarl us, to use a kind of a, is when we start to over-identify with the traumatic parts of our story, yeah? When we start to say, like, this is who I am, and because those experiences are so formative and happen to all of us at a young time in our lives, and so we start to, and this is the both and of the refuge, of seeking refuge, in that identifying with things that happened, or even our LGBTQIA+, even those identities, like they become a site of resistance and of reclaiming like who we are, like our humanity, and they can be subject to erasure or change. You know, I'll bring up American politics for just a sec. I won't open this, but just having letters erased from the White House, I could see we're very in touch with the headlines, yeah. But how that can be totally crushing and terrifying, and an opportunity to be like, who am I really, you know? And an invitation to be in Sangha, which is the third jewel, to be around other people where we don't have to explain these things as an attempt to be humanized, right? Yeah, so I think it's important to talk about false refuges, because I just recalled a false refuge of looking at news headlines for a sense of certainty, right? Particularly in legacy media. As I was going to sleep last night and preparing for my talk today, I thought about 11-year-old me reading the New York Times. I wanted to be a meteorologist, a weatherman, and how I read the Times and how beautiful the writing was just about the weather, and how I personally, I am not taking refuge in the headlines anymore. I don't feel that I can trust in that. And like anything, it's not either or. If it gets me in touch with not trusting, then that is the path, yeah? The path being, as a Buddhist word, is sati, S-A-T-I, yeah, the remembering, right? So this is the title, Remembering Refuge. And so the remembering is it's usually translated as mindfulness, yeah? But some of the etymology of that word is to remember, so to come back, like, okay, I'm here. I think of remembering as like sewing us up, right? Our attention are going all these different places. And so to remember, to slow down and to come back, yeah. And to recognize is another, to recognize the wholesome, and to recognize the impulsivity of like wanting to push away the unpleasant just right away. So that's a combination, I think, taking refuge in our Buddha nature, so that capacity. So we need ego to experience this world, and some things remembering, you know, some things recognizing, cognizing, thinking, and we have the truth, the second jewel, to come back to, and then it's all sewed in together with Sangha, with love, yeah. So where do we take refuge when it comes to truth, yeah? And I know that I can get caught in absorbing a lot of knowledge and information as a way to feel that I am taking refuge in truth and in Dharma. And I can get ensnarled in that, I think, because that creates, for me, a sense that I know it all, or I'm an expert. Yeah, and then so that ends up othering, right? Then it's like, oh, they actually don't know, because I know, and here are all the receipts, that's what I'm saying, and that I've read, you know, all these things, and that could be, if I get lost in those thoughts and feelings, that can lead to the illusion, the delusion of separateness, that whatever's out there is somehow I'm immune to it, and that I know better, right? And especially being conditioned as a man, my rugged individualism and my intellect, and not feeling any feelings except righteousness or anger, right? That's the only feelings a lot of us are, yeah, conditioned to, that are socially acceptable. That then I end up being better, right? Or it's what the disease of it, or the delusion of it is separateness, yeah. That somehow there's a separate self, and that can be really dangerous, yeah. I mean, and we're facing that politically right now, right? The moment that we, as a society, start to other people, which has been, I mean, the country's founded on it in some deep ways. That then becomes ways to justify denying people's humanity, right? Yeah, and I'm almost saying euphemistically, right? Denying people's humanity, right? And from genocide and murder to the slow withering away of safety net and resources. And so, and not to leave us there, right? Because then we go to Sangha, right? Where the resources are evident, both the potential of boundless love and unconditional support, because Sangha as a spiritual community, like-minded hearted people that have been traveling together for who knows, yeah. Time is human-made concept, right? Linear time, right? And so when we come together like this, we're reminded of possibility. We can be reminded of that. I'll just speak for myself. I'm reminded that I'm not alone, that there are other people, leaders. Yeah, there are other leaders, other people that have heart and courage to, particularly in this Buddhist path, to not add one more drop of harm in the world. Yeah. And when we do, we promptly admitted it, to use a 12-step adage, right? And to ourselves, to each other, and Sangha, right? To hold, to bring it back to a point I made around the illusion of separateness, right? The one way, as I hear our coughs and our sniffles, this is so not PC, but I've been calling it the fascism flu. I just don't know what else, the allergies to what this current administration is trying to do. And so the reminder, one way and the flu and viruses, how they remind us of our interconnection, right? But one delusion that is so prominent in our U.S. culture is the hyper-individualism, right? Because that's another place I can get stuck as expert, where it's like, okay, well, I know it all, and and it's me that has to save the world, right? Yeah, that's how, am I alone in that? I'm not the only one that gets stuck in that, right? And it's a product of I'll use an academic term, of colonialism, of dividing and conquering us, right? Splitting us from our own, the illusion, these are all delusions, from our own mind, body, heart, spirit, and then from each other, right? And yeah, I take heart, and when I bring up viruses, I take heart that we have survived other pandemics, right? And this COVID pandemic really, I know we're still recovering and it's not over, right? And how can we bring a warm light of awareness to the other interconnections here in Sangha, and then transpersonally and ancestrally, to remind ourselves of the resilience and love that has always got us through. And that's a question, like how do we practice that, remember, right? Remind each other. And so, yeah, so that question, to add another question, and I think I'll turn it over to you all, like, how do we, I just want to answer one of the questions. Remembering is like a daily moment-to-moment practice, right? To really, and it becomes a act of resistance, persistence, of remembering who we really are, you know. A lot of it gets to be in the container of creativity as an antidote to the trauma of being told we're separate from ourselves, right? So that I'm just answering that. But in terms of practice is it's aspirational, right? Because we never get there, right? We're practicing. And bringing compassion to the well-worn grooves of unwholesome, kind of addictive behaviors, because that's another place we attempt to take true refuge is through addictive behaviors, yeah? Some of them are socially condoned in our society, some of them are moralized, and so we know that harm reduction becomes what we're aspiring to, right? And so aspirations, like what are we breathing life into? That's respira is a Latin etymology of aspire, aspiration. So that's the question I'm going to leave us with. Like, what refuges are we breathing life into, you know? It could be the false refuge, you know, or it just, but really just like, what are we wanting to breathe into, you know? And what are we, or what are we aspiring to take refuge in? Yeah. If the breathing doesn't, it's just my mind. Sometimes I have no filter, which hopefully makes me good enough to do this Dharma teaching stuff. But I'm thinking of the big bad wolf and like blowing the house down. So I'm like breathing. Maybe that's some of like blowing away some of the structures that don't work for us, right? That, you know, but like, yeah, what are we aspiring? Just to come back to this question, as an opportunity to reflect in the whole Sangha here. What are we aspiring to take refuge in? Yeah, and I'm thinking I would love to hear from a word or two or a sentence from each of us, if we have that time, so that we can share and take, and it's a form of taking refuge in someone else's Buddha nature, yeah, because we're such a special opportunity to be with each other, that we are on the path. You know, how many times have I tried to take refuge in people that aren't on a spiritual path, right? That's definitely red flag, like false refuge. I would love to share in that with each other, to share what we're aspiring to take refuge in. And the encouragement is to like listen to what your body says, like, you know, and not to have like the perfect answer, because that's another false refuge, is perfectionism, right? Like if I'm just perfect, then I won't suffer, you know, or if I have my politics perfect, if I have my spiritual practices perfect, right? That's an illusion, because things are always changing, right? So that's another false refuge. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to the rest of us, if we have the time.
Yeah.
How's our, yeah.
10 or 15 minutes.
Okay, that's enough time for each person to say a word or two. It's okay to pass, or a sentence. Like, what are you aspiring to take? And I almost said hope, but hope is kind of funny in Buddhism. It's a form of attachment. It's like, can be. You're like, I hope, you know. So just like the inclining the heart and the mind, aspiring. Stephen, I'll start with you, Stephen. Yeah, I mean Henry. Sorry. And then we'll go around. Yes.
Can you say the question again?
Yeah. What are you aspiring to take refuge in?
Well, when I come in here, I aspire to take refuge in the Sangha and in my friendship with various other members here that I rely on, that especially in this period of time when we feel under assault from the federal government.
Right. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for going first. Yes. And then I have a mind where, as you were saying, others, like these beams of light connecting to other people, and that when you take refuge in others that are taking refuge in you, that's contagious. Yeah. That's like that ephemeral, right? That's where a lot of the enlightenment, you know, experiences that can happen moment to moment are those moments of taking refuge, the reflection of the jewel. So I'm going to go with you by the door. It's a word or two, a phrase, yeah? If you want to say your name, yes. I take refuge. And gratitude. Thank you. Beautiful.
Unless we die before our parents, we all experience the death of our mothers. And mine died 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I've been taking refuge in my recovery community called Life Ring, Secular Recovery.
Yeah.
And it's based on that connection you just mentioned, connecting to the best parts of ourselves, and trying to grow that. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm caregiving my mom right now, so it's a journey. So I just wish it continued. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I was doing the last 8 months.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
You can make it through.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and in whatever shape. Like I always, another thing I think about is like we don't have to be better, you know. Like yeah, that's another way we get false refuge. If I'm just better, you know, and we're already good. Yeah. So yeah, So yes.
I never think about myself taking refuge in anything, but in thinking about it, I think I just take refuge in letting myself be in the moment.
Mm.
Experience what I'm experiencing without judgment, and let myself feel without judgment, and not try to decide what the absolute truth is, because I'm not sure there's an absolute truth.
Thank you. Beautiful. And so that's a reminder, a nudge. If let go of planning what you're going to say, because that's like refuge in the moment. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. So whatever comes to heart, mind. Yeah. Hi. Yes. In the round, cool glasses. Yeah.
Okay, don't laugh when I say this, but a few years ago I started a Facebook group where I could take refuge on social media in harm reduction setting. It's called Castro Conversations. And 2 weeks ago, after Mark Zuckerberg met with Trump, I decided to log out of Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so interesting to have the lack of social media in my life for a few weeks. I was surprised that how much I enjoyed it, being with myself, apart from all that chatter.
Yeah.
And I just logged in to Facebook again, and I felt so much stronger and clearer about how I felt about that experience and how I want to participate.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Yes.
Self-acceptance.
Self-acceptance. Thank you. So in front.
I am aspiring to take refuge in acceptance of what is, just as it is, and not having to have things be how I want them to be, and to find peace in that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. So we'll just zigzag. Yeah, I'll go open that. Yeah.
I'll go with presence.
Pre-
Just not to worry too much about the past and thinking too much about the future.
Great. So not worrying too much for the past and not thinking too much for the future. Presence. Yeah. I'm repeating because I'm wondering on Zoom, can folks hear? Have folks been able to hear? Okay, I see some nods. Great. Okay, so I won't. Yes, please.
I take refuge in nature. When the shit hits the fan, I go look at the sky, look at trees, and just breathe.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yes.
I would say I take refuge in knowing that everything changes, and this is not forever, and that really be in the moment and make the best of it, and take comfort with Sangha and friends, and this is the only life I have, and I'm not going to spend it crazed all the time about our crazy government, so.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Andrea.
I think I take refuge in the people that I've let know see me, and the ones that I see, and the ones that have been a witness to my life, and the wisdom they bring me, which is humility, and I guess just seeing what else is possible in a day. They help me frame my reality a little different when I'm going down an old rabbit hole. And in Sangha and in my 12-step programs.
Thank you.
I take refuge in this Sangha and the like-minded community of people that attend, and take refuge in knowing that in 4 years there'll be a completely different outlook on our government. It's only a matter of time.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Okay, thank you.
I think about this a lot, about how I'm gonna navigate the next 4 years. And I was telling people, my plan for this 2025 is just to think of it as a extremely long intermission between Wicked Parts 1 and 2. My strategy has been to just be ready to take action when action is needed during these times, but also to kind of step up my service. At the same time, just seeing what are other ways that I can make my community a better place. So. And a lot of it has always it's always around the 4 divine abodes, the Brahma Viharas, and how can I step up my loving kindness? How can I step up my compassion? How can I step up my generosity? And how can I keep calm throughout all of it?
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, immeasurables. I love that translation of those. And the more we practice, the more we realize we have. Yeah, and we can share. Yeah. Yeah. And then service, like who's serving who, like that we're in this together. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
So I usually go back to basics for Refuge, and so I cook all the time, and I work as a gardener, and it's spring, so I like to say the plants give back, and it's not just me enjoying them, it's like it's a two-way thing.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
I guess I have many sanghas I take refuge in. This one, 12-step communities, my education community. I'm so grateful for that. And I've seen about my family as a refuge. But my family has those others in it. And so I guess I'm aspiring to begin with my families, to have compassion and stop my othering. I don't know, I don't like how I'm othered at, and I don't want to be the othering person. How can we really, maybe I'm trying to take refuge in the interconnectedness of everyone. It's difficult right now.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So.
I think I'm taking refuge in spending time with and connecting with friends and coworkers that are like-minded and kind, sympathetic, generous people.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think I'm taking refuge in the metta practice, kind of in light of supporting my husband who's dealing with chronic pain.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yes. So, yeah.
I have no idea what to say. So fortunately, this is a good answer for me. Is that I take refuge in practice.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. And
Me next, or?
yes, please. And then we'll warm up people, and we'll just call on the people online, and then yeah.
Even though it's inconvenient, I love the rain. Having been a gardener for 40 years and retired recently, wet winters always make me happy because the hills turn green after being brown and go golden for a while and then brown for a while. So it was wonderful to have the rain in November and December, and then I was sad because I was sick the whole month of January and there was no rain. It was dry. Lovely to see the sunshine and see a few things bloom, but it's really nice since we're in the rainy season to have the rain back. The air is fresher, the streets are cleaner, and everything that's green is smiling to me right now. So that's my refuge at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you see all those names?
Richard. Yes, please.
I think that I take refuge mostly in my daily devotional readings, and what comes up for those readings. I seek refuge in my teacher, who is gone on from this life and attempt to listen to what he says to me in the readings, and also in the practice of equanimity. I think it helps me to to combat othering by practicing equanimity.
Thank you, Richard. And then Ricky.
I've been feeling really reactive, and so I aspire to take refuge in equanimity, which may just look like putting my phone down sometimes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay, thank Gary. Is that right?
Hi. I want to thank you for asking the question. It helped me to focus. I think what I am aspiring to do these days is to befriend myself a little more. And I notice that when I sit on my cushion for a half hour, primarily I'm trying to practice befriending myself just a bit more.
Thank you. Steve. Okay, Steve. Steve, if you want to go, you might be frozen or not there. We'll come back to you, Steve. Danielle. Oh, yeah, from all the way Brazil. Huh?
Yeah, refuge and being grateful for things that are passing right now and trying to be open to what I'm supposed to learn. I'm the only USAN within 60 kilometers of where I live, and I find myself feeling burdened by, are you one of them? Are you not? And all that stuff. So it's really an interesting time to be here. So I'm really grateful. So I'm doing a lot of metta. That's what's happening here. So thanks for the question. Good to see you, Melvin.
Good to see you too. Yeah. Okay, Christian.
Yes. Thank you for asking the question. Yeah, I think for me, I take refuge in this Sangha and also a couple of other groups that I meditate with every week. And I think I also take refuge in relieving suffering of my cat, or perceived suffering by brushing him and making him feel good.
Thank you. Tyler? Yeah, if you like.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been recently trying to lean into interbeing and compassion a lot more. Just seeing our interconnection and how we all actually depend on each other, and even though when we don't like each other.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Kevin? Yeah.
Yes, I often find myself taking refuge in just looking out and listening, seeing, and feeling the physical beauty that's around me.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. John E., if you wish.
Hi, thank you. Been a heartwarming morning. I think I'm taking refuge in the people I love and my connections, and being present to their experience and listening. And also, this morning has been wonderful because I think I also find refuge in others' refuges. It kind of opens my heart when I hear other people talk about where they take refuge, and then I say, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I need to be reminded, and others loved ones and Sangha people help me do that.
Yeah, yes. The sati, the remembering, yeah. Thank you, John, yeah. And then, who's next on the Frisco? We'll come back if you're around. Samuel. Or Hitis, I don't know how to pronounce your name. So is there anyone on the Zoom that hasn't shared that would like to share? Okay. All right. Thanks, y'all. Yeah. You know, I love, just one more phrase. Zenju Earthland Manual. I was sitting, I was just thinking back just all the years. The first time I was introduced to Gay Buddhist Fellowship in the late aughts. And she came to my heart and as a queer black woman. And she's, as you were talking about nature, like people are so complicated, but to be in nature, to see that reflection of our beauty, right? Because, right, that's another aspect of how we might get diluted in separation. Yeah, so I just thought of that teaching. So thank you. That's what I'm taking refuge in. And even though these eyes are changing, I'm very happy with them that they were able to see that far. So just taking refuge in the resilience of this body in this moment. And so thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your life energy,